Welcome to JGTCR. I'm Cope, and today we are tuning the Honda S800. Let's get into it. The good thing about this Honda is that we have plenty of time to set ourselves up for turns. It's slow, but it's a fun kind of slow. The handling is kart-esque, if you will, with a peaky feel, pointed steering, and a side salad of slide for good measure. The steering is sharp and attentive, making this Honda easy to place on circuit. The power isn't all that impressive, and it does take some time to wind through the gears, especially on inclines. The power delivery is a bit hit and miss. There is lots of space in between gear shifts, and getting back into power band does take some time. This chassis should definitely be viewed as a Sunday driver and not a weekend racer. The brakes are okay, but they do struggle quite a bit from higher speeds. Let's collect our time. 10 minutes, 18.3 seconds. And now the race tune. The issue we face with this Honda S800 is that it is a light vehicle and it has a short wheelbase. This makes it twitchy and bouncy, and it's hard to work around it. The handling is much more dull now, but it is still well within reasonable turning capabilities. The steering works decently enough, however, the front end and whole car in general is easy to unsettle with bumps and even worse when hitting rumble strips. The power available is still very low at 188 horsepower. It runs through the RPM faster than factory, but still, it's pretty slow overall. The brakes work alright most of the time, and they slow us down well enough. However, running at high RPM can make it difficult to slow down. So brake early and brake well, and make sure to keep that RPM low while doing so. Let's collect our time. 7 minutes, 31.3 seconds. And now, the drift tune. It ain't hard to tell that with such a small amount of power, this Honda S800 is going to be an absolute pig to drift. And it most certainly is just that. The handling is hyper attentive at the wrong time, and it is also hyper dull at the wrong time. It seems that this little Honda is out to spite us at every turn possible. The steering comes in and out in a bad way, and it always seems to happen at the worst possible moment. The power available is extremely low, and it can hardly keep any kind of drift going, let alone shake or even bake independently, let alone together. Power delivery? What power delivery? This S800 feels like it's being guided by the winds of the north and nothing else. It really is a struggle to keep the drift going, and we have to take great risks to our overall control to make it happen. The Honda S800 is no one's kind of drift car. It really hurts just to try to drift this car. And now it's time for an engine swap. This is an absolutely horrendous drive with just the engine swap in place. At first, it feels like it will be fun, but within a few turns, it's obvious it ain't going to be a good experience. Every element of this chassis engine combo is a roll of the dice as to how it will respond to our inputs. And as we all should know by now, an unreliable drive is a slow car in general. The handling is all over the place. It's wobbly, snappy tom, understeerish, boggy peaky, and outright hard to control. The steering does not know what the hell is going on. It will be fine one moment, then understeer into oblivion the next. It also changes dramatically when wheel spin occurs. The power is infuriating to drive with. It's very bogged down in the low mid RPM, but when it comes alive, it's too peaky aggressive. This bakes the tail end, causing steering issues. The power delivery is all or nothing, but we rarely have a choice as to when it comes into effect. The chassis will wheel spin on a whim as it sees fit, and we are left trying to collect the pieces. The brakes are terrible. They are nowhere near suitable for the job at hand. Overall, braking is a game of Russian roulette. Will they work or will they not? And if they do, will they destabilize the vehicle, sending us careening off the track? Let's collect our time. 9 minutes, 6.5 seconds. And now, the race tune. The Honda S800 with the engine swap completely modified and tuned is a sketchy ride at the best of times, and it takes some getting used to, but we can put down some decent times when we find the flow. The handling is a bit twitchy and the suspension a bit bouncy, especially if the road is bumpy or we clip curbs the wrong way. The steering is fairly sharp and pointed once the suspension is settled. The hardest part of this drive by far is getting and keeping it settled. The power is boggy peaky and can be a bit tedious to work with as the excessive revs we get from the engine impacts our ability to slow down and the general drive of this chassis. The power delivery is quite reasonable and maintaining traction is pretty easy, even when pushing. However, when it does slip, it can be detrimental to our drive. When wheel spin does occur, this Honda can become twitchy up front and snappy tom at the rear. As such, it's best to ease off and regain control before it all goes pear-shaped. The brakes work well, however, the interference from the engine means it takes longer to slow down. So brake early and plan accordingly. Let's collect our time. 6 minutes, 56.7 seconds. And now, the drift tune. More power means we can drift, but the kind of power we have can be tricky to master if we don't have the right kind of approach. The 2 and 4 engine is peaky in nature and refuses to come down from high RPM reasonably. This makes it difficult to control the drift, but we can get used to it with some time and practice. The handling is reasonable with a good chunk of weight over the front wheels. The steering is a bit twitchy, so don't overdo the steering inputs. As usual, smooth and steady equals stable drift. The power is stronger and peakier. It all seems too much to begin with, but once we learn to feather the throttle, it all comes good. The power delivery is mostly good, but high RPM and high wheel speed can mess up the drift. Make sure to use finesse to dominate the tail end. Overall, this is a much better drift car than the factory-engined model, but the kind of drift we must use is a delicacy that only some will appreciate. And that's all we have for you today, so until next time, keep racing!